Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Emily Stroya, founder of the Intuitive Soul Academy. I am super excited and thrilled to bring to you today the amazing and wonderful Isabelle Rizo. Isabelle and I have worked together over the last year, and she's been such a phenomenal coach and mentor for me as I've grown in my business as a spiritual teacher and a medium, and I'm just super honored to have her on here today as a guest. Welcome, Isabelle. If you wouldn't mind, go ahead and just share with us a little bit about you and how you serve the world.
Thank you again so much for having me on the interview series. And it's a delight to be on the other side now, be interviewed. Working with Emily has just been amazing. And I'm just like, oh my God, she's so amazing. So you guys are lucky you're in this space with her. What I do, again, my name is Isabelle from IsabelleRizo.com, and I really help women and men sometimes too, but a lot of women with their future visioning, what that looks like for their business, brand creation, and also just really stepping into leadership in a new way using technology, just like Emily's doing right now, where we have online communities, offline communities, and how can we do that in an integrated, holistic, and conscious way so everyone can step into leadership as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you do that? I know that you have the circle, but what are the ways in which you serve through your community?
Yeah. So I started in 2008 when YouTube was just starting.
Yeah.
and I just started noticing people just being themselves and talking about their interests and their gifts and their stories. And slowly over time, community started growing around those people. And then I would start organizing because I was like, it's great to be online, but I want to meet you guys because you're all cool.
Yeah.
So let's organize and let's get together in Chicago or wherever else. And it was so interesting to see people that were these leaders all just mingling with all these other content creators online and offline, where it was just like they weren't on a pedestal anymore. They saw them down at the ground and were like, oh, well, I can do exactly what you do and I can contribute in my own way. And, you know, nobody had to be a copy of one another. It's like everybody's got their own style, their own way of doing things. And the other way that I help, like you mentioned, is the Singularity Circle, which is a awesome mastermind of amazing business women, highly sensitive, intuitive, just teachers where I'm like, I want to give you all my money to sign up for all your programs because this is amazing. Where I'm like, I need to make more money to pay you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Which is awesome. And just so much wisdom in that space. And then I also have a mentorship program, the SSEE, the Singularity Storyteller Evolvement Experience, where it's really about integrating and stepping into this next level of leadership where, you know, you have access to me like Monday through Friday, whatever you need. Because as leaders, there's going to be moments where we're like, hold on, is this the right vision that I have? Am I the right person to do this? Like dealing with imposter syndrome and like, you know, self-worth stuff, because that's something so normal that leaders face. And especially when we're kind of like on the leading edge with technology,
Yeah.
we're doing things that did not exist just a few years ago. So really holding that space and honoring where you're at and just making sure that like we stick true to that vision and that future vision that you have from your gifts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I took that leap and signed up for the SSEE program too. And it's just been wonderful to be in the Singularity Circle because you've had quite an array of different women entrepreneurs and light workers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love for you to share more on that process of working with a light worker, especially for a lot of us who come from building in our local communities to that bridge with the online space and having a vision to be able to share our gifts in a way that can reach a larger amount of people, can be overwhelming, especially when we're transitioning from offline to online. And I know for me, when I first worked with you, I was like, oh, I'm terrified. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, could you share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah. And it's so interesting because a lot of the people that I worked with were transitioning from offline to online. And everything that I've done was always solely online, and then there would be like pockets of offline things. So it's kind of like the reverse. And then being involved in online spaces with working with health coaches and a few other people over the years, and seeing the infrastructure behind like what it really takes to build up like online communities and membership programs and portals and the technology involved with that, I was like, oh, okay, this is work.
Yeah.
And it is interesting to note, like for me, the distinction between offline and online is pretty much the same. It's like the way you do business offline, you have your overhead, you have your storefront, or you have your office, you have your assistant, whatever. And it's the same thing in online space, because it's just digital. It's like a digital version of all of that. And the cool thing is now as leaders is you don't just have to stay in your community. You can be globally recognized with just a few, like a website with some membership things, and just bringing all that, translating all the stuff that you did in offline space to online space. So if you did sessions in person, you could do it through Zoom like this. Or if you did circles, or like I know a few people that do retreats and things, they would do it in an online space and then have some kind of offline component to it. But it's really teaching people as well to value online and digital space just as much as offline space, because you still get very same value. You still get presence. And that's the thing, right? Like if we don't value presence in offline space, we're not going to value it in online space, because online space is just like, it's, if anything, it's more convenient and more quick.
Yeah.
So we have to be even quicker with our presence and our consciousness. So that's where singularity storytelling, the whole concept, came from.
That makes so much sense, and I totally resonate with that.
Mm-hmm.
There's the value of presence anywhere you go, like with anyone you meet. There's that creating of a team space wherever you
Mm-hmm.
go, which makes so much sense. What are some of the things that you've noticed shows up for people when they start working with you in terms of vision and their gifts? What are some of the things that are common blocks that you help them shift through?
It's so interesting because I'll see somebody and I'll be like, this is so obvious to me. Like, you are so gifted in this thing. And then like crafting that whole world and their brand around it. And then when I just mention one little element of that, they're like, oh. And then slowly I just give a little bit more and a little bit more of how they make people feel and how gifted they are in this and how they've already kind of showed up in the world online. Because you know me, I'll like check out what people do before, be like, okay, I see this, right? But I'll check out what they do before and I'll mention a few little things. They're like, oh, I see how things are connected.
Yeah.
I see how this is not a separate thing. Like, I can be a multi-passionate light worker that loves painting, that loves music, that does healing sessions, and they can all still be integrated in one way or another. They don't have to be like 3 separate businesses or something like that, because that's what makes your brand unique, right? Like, there can be an animal totem, pet whispering yogi,
Yes.
right? That loves painting. Or there could be somebody that's an embodied mystic that helps people with fitness and with diet. Like those those so easily can get connected. And I think that's what's interesting, or like the most common thing that people come and I just see it as a pattern is, well, how am I going to meld all of these things together? How do I integrate all these things? I'm like, that's the exciting part today, is you can decide to integrate all those things or keep something separate. Just deciding what that brand experience is going to look like.
Absolutely. I noticed for you, you have different layers to your own brand. Like you have the artist and the writer and then the coach and the storyteller. So how did you integrate all of that to be part of your brand experience?
Yeah. And I think this is something that I tell my clients too, is like, it took me a while to integrate all those things, all the inner work that's involved with that integration. Because I started out just collecting people's stories of how did they get to where they are. I'm just very fascinated in people's journeys and kind of like the hero's journey and archetypes. And from there, I just knew I wanted to travel the world and help people. And that's where digital nomading came in. And after that, I had this experience in Germany where I had my cup of chamomile tea and it was raining. And I was doing an exercise from Neil Donald Walsh about your conversation with God.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I ever had such a strong just presence that I could feel from source until that day, where it was kind of actually a week of experiencing going in and out of that presence, where I realized, wait a second, I have ultimate freedom. I could just go wherever I want to. I can book a ticket here and there. I can serve clients from wherever I have Wi-Fi. I'm like, okay, what a privilege this is. Okay, God, I did what I wanted to do. Use me now. And it was a space of ultimate surrender and journaling. And I asked the universe, God, source, okay, what am I here to do? Use me. And the word storytelling and connecting came up. And I was just like, what? How does this work? And it's funny, this back and forth I had with source of like, most people get one gift. You got two. Okay. So chill out. And I said, all right. And I got to this space too of working a lot in the tech space. It's usually like 80%, 90% men. And there was a point where I burned out and I almost passed out at a grocery store from just working so much and being like one of the guys.
Wow. And
I was like, okay, there's a feminine emotional side of me that I don't want to go into, but I feel like shit.
Yeah.
And that's where like feminine leadership came about. That's when I created, when I got back from Europe in Chicago, my last trip was kind of like flying back home, and I felt like that was my graduation, or that was the closing of a chapter of nomading. And I created a little, like a feminine leadership telesummit with all these women that I knew over the years that I'm like, how do you guys always, I was either their virtual assistant or their online business manager for a while. And they were always so intuitive and they would always have success in business. And I'm like, no, guys, we have to hustle. We have this and this and goals to do. And they're like, no, I know, you're really good at this, but I'm just going to go with the flow. And I'm like,
that leaning into the feminine.
Exactly. It was like my resistance. So I said, I have something to learn from you guys. And my whole thing is I love promoting people. I love just promoting and connecting really cool people.
Yeah.
So let's do a telesummit. And I want you guys to talk about feminine leadership. I'm not doing any promotions. I'm not doing anything. I just want you guys to speak so people in my network can know about your guys' work. And what happened after was they all wanted to stick together, and then the Singularity Circle was born.
Wow, that's amazing.
And from there, collaborations happened, and then the summit happened again in July. And I know you were a part of it too, and some of the other members were as well. And ever since then, the Singularity Circle has existed from that flow space, that feminine flow space of just inspired action. And the women that are in the group are amazing. And like past women that have been in the group have been, they're just like selling books and being leaders and having online communities and supportive spaces for people of all different backgrounds. So that was just from having that moment of surrender, Germany, of saying, all right, God, use me. I did everything fun I wanted to do, traveling around the world. And now I'm like, I learned all these things the last 9 years.
Wow.
So how can I be of service? Right.
Right. That's amazing. I mean, I love that story of like surrender, and you didn't have like a plan so much as you did have this download of an idea that you let kind of grow into something of its own.
Yeah.
And I feel like those are some of the best creations, are like when you have a download, but you don't understand the whole how to and the next step and all that stuff. But it is like a vision. It's a gift that you receive from source or from the universe or whatever you want to call it. And then you let it grow into its own being. It's like a baby. And I think that's great. I mean, the Singularity Circle is phenomenal. There's all kinds of women from all kinds of backgrounds in it. And just being able to connect with some of the amazing intuitive women in there just are great.
Yeah, I'm so proud.
Yeah.
And the thing is, right, it's not me. It's all channeled. That's all source working through me holding space. And every time
Exactly.
I try to control or try to create something, it's just like it doesn't work. It's just like you
Yes.
did that for 8 years and it worked for you for a while. You're not in that space anymore. You're a
Yeah.
channel right now. So get used to it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I can see that because I have those moments too where I'm like, oh, maybe I know what I'm doing. Like, I'll just like control this whole thing and I'll figure it out. And then I'm like, it's really stressful doing it that way. So I'm just going to like surrender to the process and see what shows up. And then there are these really awesome ideas. Yeah. Um, so in terms of working with all of us who have gifts, what can you suggest for people who are just starting out and building on their own online space or building a space for themselves in terms of a
Mm.
platform? And maybe they're, because in my community we have a lot of psychics and mediums and entrepreneurs, and there's all kinds of different backgrounds too. But I think something that shows up a lot is like confidence and worthiness issues, not
Mm.
feeling worthy enough to take that next leap into what they already are. So is there anything that you can suggest in terms of creating that vision for yourself and implementing that in your life?
Yeah. So I would probably, I can only speak from my experience and what has worked for me, and then what for other clients too, was really holding on to who is the tribe that you want to surround yourself with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the energy of that person or those people? What are they interested in? And yeah, we're talking about digital spaces, like creating an online community or whatever that may look like. But if you had a real physical space too, like what would
Mm-hmm.
that look like? What kind of music would be playing? What kind of food would be served? What kind of activities would be happening in that space? And then the other distinction that I had from that download was, how can this be play?
Mm-hmm.
Every time that I was in play mode, whether at the beginning of like my whole entrepreneurial journey doing freelance film, where I was just like, I'm making videos because I want to, because I feel like it. And then people were like, hey, can you do a video for me?
Mm-hmm.
Doing it from that space of play um, speeds up the manifestation of that tribe. And
Mm.
when you're coming from play, you don't need permission. So all that self-worthiness stuff, like when we put that pressure on ourselves of like, who am I to be doing this? Like, this is really serious business, guys. Like,
Yeah.
so serious.
Totally.
You don't
Yeah.
even understand. When you let go of that, you can shift into like, oh, I'm having so much fun and I'm playing so much. And people are like, then they start asking like, how are you doing this? Like, how are you
Yes.
managing? Like, I'm just having fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And that doesn't mean that there isn't work involved. Of course there's work, but then that work gets transformed into like play, because you're holding on to that feeling and that vision of that tribe, that you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I'm hanging out with these cool people. Because that's what the circle turned into. The circle is just like hanging out with cool people, supporting each other. And it's not, yeah, we talk about business, but it's also like, don't take yourself so seriously.
Yeah, I totally, I mean, you know that about me. Like, I get way serious into the work and I'm just like super anal. And it just gets to a point where it stresses me out. And then I'm like, oh my God, like, chill out, Emily. Like, you get to have fun with this and you get to play with the idea and let it be its own thing. And I think that's so true. It's like, yeah, giving yourself permission to just be in that and play, and that in itself shifts that unworthiness feeling, or that unworthiness factor. um
Or
but
the need for permission, I think,
oh
too.
yeah,
That's a
totally.
huge thing of like, oh, I can't do that. Be like, no,
Yeah,
you have full permission to
absolutely.
do that.
Now I'm like listening to you and like thinking about all the instances of which I've like not given myself permission, or like, oh my god, I need permission from someone else to go and do this one thing, or I need 7 more years of experience before I can go and do that. Then
Mm-hmm.
looking at it, you'll never start if you keep waiting for the world to give you permission.
Yep. 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 And the thing, that's why, right? That's why coaches have coaches, and that's why we have therapists, and that's why we have all these support networks, all the um, leaders that are like that people know, or they're like globally recognized, the army of support that's behind these people.
Yeah.
That's why I'm very open about like, yes, I have a coach, I have a mentor, I have a therapist, I have a mastermind, all that stuff, to let people know like it's not just me, it's this whole support system. So that's why I think the membership community that's here, like, these are your people.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the tribe of people that you're going to grow with, that you're going to shine with your gifts, these are the people that are going to be your support as you grow into and share your spiritual gifts.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of your spiritual gifts, what has shown up for you? And I know, because we have similar backgrounds of being being connected to Romania and all that good stuff.
That was so funny.
Yeah, Isabelle and I are both have family connections to Romania, and didn't even know it, but ended up working together, and then that showed up in our communication as that parallel. What has shown up for you in terms of your gifts and embracing them intuitively or spiritually speaking?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I know you're the expert on this with the terms of things.
Go with whatever feels good to you.
With the clairvoyance, so that's the
Mm-hmm.
seeing
Yep.
things in the future. And whether it's a meditation or journaling or something, it's just very, very clear downloads and visions of what things are.
Mm.
Everything that I'm doing today is from that vision from 2 years ago,
Amazing.
where it's kind of like, that high. I know you watch Jason Silva.
Mm-hmm. Love him. He's like one of my, I'm like, my soul. No, just kidding.
Right? Yes, yes. There was this moment where because I can go into that, and that's what's kind of scary. Like when the veil, like my mentor talks about this, of like the veil getting thin. When I do artwork, it's like, then I get on it and I'm just in flow, and I'm like, hold on, slow down. Where it's clairvoyant future visioning for people. And I think this happens too on our sessions too. It's like, okay, future me is saying this, but I'm not going to let it, not yet.
I love that exercise though, the future self coming in and coming from that space of being already what you are, just creates that being present in that moment of like, okay, this is me. This is who I am. This is the authentic me.
Yep. And this is where the storytelling comes in. So it's just like, I see story as a tool for more of that embodiment, where when I was saying, I was introducing myself as, hi, my name is Isabelle Rizo, and I'm a digital nomad that helps entrepreneurial women create location-independent businesses around the world. I memorized it. And every time I'd introduce myself, I did it. Even when I still wasn't a full-time nomad, all that, I was still embodying it. And then that turned into my reality. And I had the future vision every time I'd see an airplane, every time I'd think of like all the trips and things that I would go. I didn't have a clear like how, but I knew internally, and the future, like those downloads would come in all the time. Like, this is what you're going to do. And I'm like, what the heck?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How am I going to do that? Like I was in Romania right before I was going to come back to the US. And I didn't have internet for a whole week, which was fabulous for downloads.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how much you can receive from spirit when you don't have internet.
And what came through was an art exhibit, and I was like, what the, I don't do art, I'm a business consultant. You know. And then what came through was like the download from Germany with singularity storytelling. That was the word that came through, and the earth is your playground, the world is your playground, you can morph it how you want using technology, to art exhibit with the concept of singularity storytelling, where people, they take selfies and then they become aware of themselves. They play with technology in a conscious way.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that sounds like so much fun, but I'm not an artist. I'm not da da da. And then what happened was, like, an art exhibit's going to be happening in May in Prague. I'm like, how did this manifest? I don't know.
Yeah.
So it just, like, it's following those nudges, even when not feeling ready. Like, the download is there. The universe is like, okay, here you go.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Yeah. I get that so much. All the time. I'm like, this is large, man. Like, chill out. Like, this is a really large download. Like, I get it. But I think that it speaks volumes to what can be truly created if we come from that space of urgency, and also taking it seriously and not dismissing it, because there's so often, talking intuitively, that we, in the beginning, I feel like, for me even, and students and clients have shared this, is that they'll get these intuitive nudges, but then they dismiss them, like it rolls off their back, like, oh, I don't understand, like, I'm not really sure. And I think that your story just, is great, and a great example of how intuition can be such a huge component of our entire existence, from every relationship we encounter to every opportunity created to your business, and the whole creation of the singularity storyteller and the circle, and you launching this huge epic mentor program that is to take people up to their highest self. So I think that you're really embodying that space of intuition and leaning into all the ways of being with that.
Yeah, and it's so funny because it's great because of the last 9 years of understanding, like, the foundational internet marketing stuff, which I can give my clients. And it's so funny because I don't use those traditional marketing.
No.
Never.
No.
It's really just following intuition at this point. Which if it was a few years back, I'd be like, you crazy girl, what are you doing? This is not practical. But now it's just really doing all that inner work and just really trusting those downloads. I remember, I think you even did a webinar, guided meditation, with connecting with your spirit guides, maybe. And some really great artwork came through.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
You shared it. It was really beautiful.
And what happened after was, like, it was in regards to a relationship, and how in the vision, it was like dark, and like something bad was going to happen. And then what happened, like, the next week was exactly the same feeling that was in that vision. And I'm like, shoot, darn future visioning.
It's insane. Yeah.
Seeing it. So it's a good thing and a bad thing, because this is the other thing that I had to learn to I guess, not hold back, but know when to put out my gift and when to not. Right.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, it's good. It's a boundary, like how much to give and how much to receive.
Exactly. Because I would speak to people as their future selves. Like, because I would see them and just honor them and be like, yeah, this is you. And then in one way, they would be like, oh no, you're setting the bar really high for me, when they weren't ready, or they didn't do the internal work, or they needed some mentorship, whether if it was from me or somebody else, to see them to see themselves as that vision, right?
Mm.
So that was a learning thing for me of how future visioning was, how best to use it
Yeah.
for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think future visioning is a huge, powerful gift to have, to be able to see that person in their highest form of creation.
Mm,
Um, but it does take work to see yourself that way. And it's not an overnight thing. Like,
no.
and there's so many stories of people who do leap into that reality and then have the biggest breakdowns in the process because they're not internally ready. So there's like a misalignment that happens.
Exactly. And then it could become, it could actually become traumatic
Right.
for people. And that's why I called, my SSEE is like the evolvement
Yeah.
process, because it's really evolving. And I kind of had this distinction too, after being in Romania for a while, of what revolution does to a country. For people, it's kind of like a PTSD, but on a country level, where it's the
Yeah.
skepticism and this fear. And I'm like, I don't want to do that for clients, because countries are just representations, again, of individuals. It's just, they're all reflections of each other.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm more about evolving, and I know it's a slower process. And I know a lot of clients are like, but I want this now, because I'm the same way.
Right.
Like, but I want this exhibition right now, and this here, and my PR agency, blah, blah. But really, if I were to get all the things that I, like, even I share the story of Paris. I wanted to go and live in Paris for the longest time. And I remember the first night I arrive, and I just see the Eiffel Tower peeking out over from the balcony of where I was staying. And I start crying. What happened was my internal voice. So I did a ton of inner work, right? I shouldn't be crying. I should be like, yeah, this is normal. Was the inner voice came through saying, oh, you're not worthy of this. Or you had to work much harder to get this. Like, you're too, no, this isn't your reality right now. This disbelief. And I'm like, and if I would have gone to Paris earlier, then I would not have had the amazing experiences and the amazing gratitude that came through when I did make it at the right time.
Yeah.
8 years later.
Yeah.
First visioning it. Because the vision was always there, but at the same time, it wouldn't have been as profound if I would have gotten it instantaneously. Not how you said, it's not in alignment.
Yeah. And that's great that you were able to recognize that part of you and not let it control your reality. I think that shows up for a lot of us in our gifts and shifting, is that those doubts and those beliefs that we've carried for so long as like forms of survival almost. And being able to recognize it when it shows up and then still continue on your journey.
Yes.
Like thank you. But I'm driving the car now.
Yes. Yes. And I think this is the benefit of being a light worker and having other light workers that you work with, or coaches or mentors that you work with, that it becomes easier every time that inner critic comes up. Not that it's easy, but it's quicker, where you can spot it and be like, thank you for sharing.
Yep.
I'm going.
I'll take the mic now.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's great. So as we wrap up, is there anything that you'd like to share as far as like closing thoughts or inspirations as people do shift into 2017 and as they shift into their vision of their lives and embracing their gifts right now?
Yes. Ooh, I think I'm very much about everything that is branding and feelings and emotions and landscapes and things like that. If there's one fun activity I can give for you guys as you step into like the experience you're going to create when you do share your gifts, because there are going to be lots of consultants, there are going to be lots of psychics, there are going to be lots of people that are doing similar work. And what's going to be different is the feeling that you're going to give others, and the experience you're going to give others, right? So whether you use Pinterest or you're very much hands-on, crafty, getting some magazines and cutting things out, really choose like 3 or 4 colors, like base colors that are going to be, that intuitively feel good for you, and that represent different emotions for you. And then any images that are embodying that experience as well. I think I'll post in the group my little board that I use too for the new year. Because every time I'm kind of like, wait, what's the experience that I want to give others? I'll look back there and I'll say, oh yeah, duh.
That's so great.
Experience, that's the presence that I'm aware of that I'm giving off, right? That I'm intentionally wanting to give somebody, because I'm here to serve. Not here for, I mean, I am here for me too, to have fun, but
that's right. You still have to play in the process.
I'm here to play, but through this play, I'm also very intentional in how I'm serving too. So I want to leave that for the group, because I'm excited to connect with all of you and see how you're serving and how you're building community, and whether you're blogging or making YouTube videos or whatever it is, I'm excited to see all those things.
Oh, I love it. That's great. Absolutely. Feeling definitely shifts things from one person to another, because we all have our own individual imprint, but collectively we are connected.
Exactly.
So as we close, where can people find out about you and your wonderful programs and your mentorship program and the Singularity Circle? Where can we access the beautiful Isabelle Rizo?
Yes, and I'd absolutely love to have, if you guys are interested in the Singularity Circle, we have a ton of fun. Emily's in there too. You can go to isabellerizo.com. That's ISABELLERIZO.com. And there's a little button that says Singularity Circle. I have lots of free resources on my website too. There's the free 5-day storytelling challenge, where you can get really clear on kind of your introduction, your story tool to help you embody, the leader that you are, and the brand that you're creating. And then there's the SSEE program. So there's a little button too that says work with me, and it'll say SSEE or Singularity Circle. And then there's also, of course, the free online Facebook community called the Singularity Storyteller Incubator. And I do webinars in there every month. And then I do Facebook Lives in there with people. We're going to be doing a Discover Your Brand Voice challenge real soon. So if you're uncertain about how your voice is coming across, and if it's really, is it the voice you're intending to put out there, or is it kind of like, it's not really showing up how you want it to show up? We're going to go really in depth with that and have some fun in creating your, almost like your brand performance voice for that.
I love that. That sounds exciting. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on here and being a featured guest for us. I'm really honored to have you, and I'm just excited to know you and to be a part of this journey and experience with you. So thank you.
Thank you.